Namaskaram. Welcome to my channel, VPK Nutrition, Modern Vedic Integrative Wellness. Today, I wanted to talk about a topic which is very close to my own experience. As I have moved on from my 50s into the 60s, I have started noticing that I have lost a lot of physical strength in my body. Of course, it also comes with going into menopause and all of that. However, I've also noticed that I'm not able to do simple things like, carrying my own groceries or carrying luggage or even opening a jar without a lot of difficulty, something that I've never experienced when I was younger. And then the other thing is, I used to be one of those people who played several hours of tennis every week, as I used to do travel team tennis. And then I also taught yoga for years, and I was much stronger then. And the last couple of years, I've been having some shoulder issues, and that kind of limited my mobility with yoga and things like that. And I have noticed I've gotten weaker and weaker and weaker as the days went on. Now, this is a very frustrating experience because we not only lose our muscle mass, but we also lose a sense of independence. You kind of start depending on others. You lose confidence in yourself. And also, this is something that deteriorates with age, and it also sets in with a lot of anxiety, because for a person who's so independent like me, it was really hard to feel that I am not strong anymore. I'm sure many of you can relate to this. So in today's episode, I wanted to share the connection between aging, inflammation, and muscle loss, and also look at how we can improve our food habits and our diet in order to make us stronger. From a modern perspective, I will talk more about our protein needs as we get older and how to incorporate more protein into our daily life and our diet. And especially if you're a vegetarian, how can we improve our options for that as well? From an Ayurvedic perspective, I will talk about the stage of aging as described in Ayurveda, how our doshas change, and according to your body type, how you're supposed to adapt to that, and also how to improve your digestion so you build proper tissues, especially the muscle tissue, and gain more strength. Stay tuned. Welcome back, everyone. First of all, my heartfelt thanks to all my viewers and subscribers. And if you haven't already done so, please do consider subscribing. And also, if you like this video, give it a thumbs up and share with those you think may be benefited. So let's get started with today's episode. Let's begin from the modern medicine perspective. As we age, we naturally start to lose a lot of muscle mass and strength. This is called sarcopenia in modern medicine. This can show up in your life as different ways. Number one, it can show up as weakness in gripping objects, difficulty lifting bags, trouble getting up from a chair or on the floor, slower walking, poorer balance. This can happen sooner when you are less active, have pain or injury, eat inadequate protein, sleep poorly, or live with chronic stress. Another factor that can also have a huge impact is having this low-grade inflammation. And I've talked about this in detail in the last couple of videos, so please make sure you watch that. I will share the link in the description. Let's look at what the research says. Researchers have found that inflammation, this low-grade inflammation I talked about, increases with age, and they coined a term for this called inflammaging. A 2022 review explained that inflammaging can contribute to sarcopenia, and then muscle loss and lack of movement or inactivity can further increase the inflammation. So this becomes a cycle of inflammation causing weakness, causing limited mobility, again leading to inflammation. So this becomes a vicious cycle. Another study showed that older adults who had higher inflammatory markers of interleukin-6 and CRP experienced a greater decline in muscle strength. So this shows us that there is a strong correlation or connection between aging, inflammation, and muscle loss. So the first question is, what can we do through food to help us with this strengthening. Our diet has to do two different things. Number one, help reduce chronic inflammation with an anti-inflammatory diet like a Mediterranean diet. Number two, provide enough protein and nourishment to preserve muscle mass. So we need a diet that is both anti-inflammatory and strengthening. Number one is anti-inflammatory diet. And this is something I've already touched upon in other videos. An anti-inflammatory diet is basically like a Mediterranean diet where you're using mostly whole foods and minimally processed foods and avoiding ultra-processed foods. So these are some of the options for an anti-inflammatory diet. They include colorful vegetables, leafy greens, berries and seasonal fruits, beans, dals, lentils, whole or minimally processed grains. You can try things like quinoa, millets, etc. Nuts and seeds in appropriate amounts, olive oil or other suitable healthy fats, spices such as turmeric, ginger, cumin, coriander, black pepper, etc. Reduce excess sugar, heavily processed foods, and frequently fried foods. There is still one extra thing that we need to think about as we get older. This is, how are we actually getting enough protein? I know a lot of people talk about protein all of the time, and especially if you're a vegetarian, they get really concerned that they're not meeting the protein requirements. So I wanted to talk a little bit more about the protein requirements and as well as how we can incorporate more protein sources in our diet. Protein is not just for athletes. It has a lot of functions. It is necessary for muscle maintenance, for immunity, for healing, for strength, as well as healthy aging. The RDA recommendation for all healthy adults for maintenance is about 0.8 grams per kilogram body weight. Now, many expert groups have recommended or increased the recommendation to 1 to 1.2 grams per kilogram body weight for older adults, just to preserve that muscle mass. In addition to that, they also recommend regular exercise as well as strength training at least a couple of times a week. Now, for a 60 kilogram body weight person, they would need approximately 60 to 72 grams of protein per day. Remember, this also must be individualized, and of course, if you have any kidney disease or liver disease or some other medical condition that does not support eating too much protein, then make sure you consult with your doctor or your registered dietitian before you start increasing your protein intake. One more thing to consider when eating your protein is, how do you distribute the protein intake throughout the day? A small control study was done to show that with two different groups. One group ate their protein equally throughout the day for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And then the second group ate more of the protein during the dinner time and not enough during breakfast time, and which is something like a typical diet that a lot of people do. And they found the results were very interesting. They showed that muscle protein synthesis over 24 hours was approximately 25% higher with the more evenly distributed pattern. So rather than eating most of your protein during an evening meal or lunch, it is important to distribute it evenly throughout the day. So if you're taking 60 grams of protein, it would be really good if you can at least get like 15 grams in the morning and then maybe a little bit heavier during the lunch and a little less during dinner. So again, it's more evenly distributed. This gives you the energy to keep going throughout the day. It keeps you full longer, and it also gives you energy to do all of your work. So what would this look like? Let's start with breakfast. Here are some examples. Tofu besan chila with yogurt dip. Mung dal dosa with or crepes with yogurt, tofu scramble, Greek yogurt or thick curds, eggs eaten anyway, omelets with vegetables and spices, soy milk alongside a high protein breakfast. Depending on the food and portion, aim for approximately 20 grams or more when possible. So what about a lunch? Usually I like to recommend a plate with half the plate filled with vegetables which are cooked and spiced for digestion, quarter plate of starch like rice, chapati, pasta. Again, we want to choose a small quantity there. And of course, millets, quinoa are all better options. And then quarter plate is protein that can come from all your dry beans and peas, chickpeas, rajma, red kidney beans, lentils, mung dal, very digestible, and also tofu, tempeh, edamame, and also paneer. Now again, paneer is very high in fat, so naturally if you have trouble with cholesterol or problem with digestion, especially as you get older, digestion becomes weaker. So definitely eat that more sparingly, and of course make tofu as a better alternative. You can pretty much substitute tofu in a lot of the dishes that you use paneer in. And again, if you are also a non-vegetarian who eats meat, then chicken or fish are lighter options. And again, only 2 to 3 ounces, not a lot. So the portion actually helps you with the digestion. So if you eat too much, you cannot digest your food as well. So this is how a lunch will look. And again, this is the main meal of the day according to Ayurveda. Let's look at the dinner option. So dinner again can be a repeat of the same thing, or even something lighter like a soup. But there you can incorporate some of these vegetables and also the tofu and all of that I mentioned, or dals and beans, making like a nice vegetarian chili. Or you can eat those same chilas I talked about, the besan or the chickpea flour with the tofu, mix in some vegetables and spices and make it into little pancakes. Those are all very healthy, and you can eat it with a side of Greek yogurt, just as a dip, and of course add some spices so it makes it a little easier to digest, and beat it up with that. Let's look at it from an Ayurvedic perspective. Now in Ayurveda, we don't talk about carbohydrates, protein and fat, but actually the food itself. So there are different questions. One is the food nourishing for your body? Is the food individualized to suit your needs? Is your digestion strong enough to digest the food that you're eating? And also, are you forming ama? And if are you digesting the food enough to form the healthy tissues, the 7 layers of tissues called the sapta dhatus that need to be formed to keep you healthy. Now the sapta dhatus are rasa, rakta, mamsa, meda, asti, majja and shukra. Again, these are described in Ayurveda and we don't need to go into the details, but mamsa is the muscle tissue. So as you can see, these are formed in a sequential manner. So if you're not forming the first one after the breakdown of your food, then obviously you're not creating any of the other tissue layers as well. And these are the things, the muscle especially gives you strength to the body as well as endurance in the body. So this is why it's important that we choose foods that are nourishing and also suitable for your body type. There is one more factor to consider as you age in Ayurveda, because this is called after midlife, we are said to be in the Vata stage of life. So naturally, no matter what kind of body type you were born with or what imbalance you have, the Vata increases even more as you get into your midlife. So naturally, a lot of the things of Vata like drying and cooling properties take over the body. So when Vata increases, you will notice some of these things: dryness, stiffness, disturbed sleep, variable digestion, joint cracking and pain, tissue depletion, and loss of strength. Vata may also disturb Pitta. So this is a Vata pushing Pitta. This can also lead to inflammation. So you can have both Vata problems of depletion, loss of muscle strength, and you can also have inflammation because it pushes Pitta by the drying nature. This is why a standard raw, cold, anti-inflammatory Mediterranean diet may not always be suitable for a 50+ person. And of course, generally, if you cook your meals, you are more likely to digest it better. So that could be a general rule for the anti-inflammatory. But choosing raw foods and cold foods, you have to really make sure that your body can digest what you're eating. This is where Ayurveda separates people according to their doshas. So helpful choices for this stage of life may include the following: warm cooked meals, soups and stews, well-cooked dals, especially mung dal, which is much easier to digest than the others, tofu or paneer when suitable, cooked vegetables for fiber, moderate healthy fats to lubricate, especially ghee is very helpful. Digestive spices like turmeric, ginger, black pepper, cumin, coriander, etc. Now, the right food will depend upon your constitution, your digestion, your age, the season you're in, the place you live, and also your medical condition. Now, again, I have shared detailed videos about Vata, Pitta, and Kapha-Pacifying diets and lifestyle. So I will share the link in the description. And if you need more details than what I have shared today, please go and watch some of those things based on what you think you may be needing and based on your symptoms. So what are some practical takeaways? There are 4 things you can do. One is add a meaningful protein source to your breakfast so you start the day with a lot of energy. Number 2, distribute your protein intake to all the 3 meals rather than focused on just one meal. Number 3, make sure you combine this protein with colorful whole foods which are minimally processed and anti-inflammatory in nature, and avoid all ultra-processed foods as much as possible. Number 4, protect your digestion with warm cooked meals, fresh meals, eating at the right meal times per the dosha clock, eating at least 3 hours before bedtime for dinner, and adding spices to your cooking to improve your digestion, kindle that agni, and reduce inflammation. As you can see, food gives you the building blocks for building muscles. However, you also need to use the muscles in order to be healthy and strong. So next episode, I will share some exercises, yoga, as well as some strength training that you can adapt into your lifestyle in order to get stronger. This week, listen to your body, observe your mind, and heal yourself. And I will see you again with another episode very soon. Have a wonderful week ahead.